Greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to the best damn movie-related show on the planet Earth, the John Campea Show podcast, coming to you from right here in our quaint little studio. I'm, of course, your host, John Campea. I'm joined in studio today by Ray Ora.
Hey, good morning, everyone.
Jonathan Voico's here.
Hello.
And most importantly, you guys are here. Thanks a lot for being here, making this show part of your day. And here's how today's show is going to go. We're going to start off by talking about a couple of predetermined topics. Then in the second part of the show, we're going to take your live comments and questions. Now, if you've got a thought, comment, or question for the show you'd like us to address, and it's appropriate for us to address, go ahead and use our tip link right now at www.streamelements.com/JohnCampea/tip. And the best thing about this tip link is that if you're one of those people, one of the 90% of the people who watches this show, but not when it's actually being streamed live, you now can also send in a thought, comment, or question for the show by using this tip link anytime, 24 hours a day. And when you send it in, we'll just get around to answering it on the next episode. Again, if it's appropriate for us to address on the show. All right, guys, listen, we got a number of things we're going to talk about here, but before we do, I like to make light sometimes of heavy situations. It's just my cope. It's how I cope. It's my coping mechanism, if you will. But one of the truly all-time great Canadian actors from St. John, New Brunswick, Donald Sutherland, iconic, legendary performer, a father, of course, of Kiefer Sutherland, has passed away at the age of 88. Now, obviously, most of today's movie-going audience will look at that face, that precious face, and think President Snow. And that's understandable. But he was GOAT level long before Hunger Games. Whether it's, iconic. I didn't watch this movie till I was in my 20s, but MASH. A lot of you guys might not even realize that MASH was a movie before it was a TV show. Because everybody thinks MASH, they just think of it, Donald Sutherland in MASH. And you know what? Even though it was one of his smaller roles, when I think of Donald Sutherland, I think, hello, Shadow. I don't know if any of you know that reference.
No.
You get it?
No, I don't.
Backdraft. Backdraft. His scene is so powerful in that movie. But his career has stretched on like for decades and decades and decades and decades. And just one of the most instantly recognizable faces. His presence in any project suddenly gave more credibility to it. Of course, then fathering another great performer of our age with Kiefer Sutherland. And yeah, man, I heard that this morning. Jonathan is the one who brought it up to me a little bit earlier that Donald Sutherland passed away. And like the dude's 88. I guess it shouldn't shock me so much, but I was shocked. Mm-hmm. So guys, throughout today's show, go ahead and throw in the live chat if you're watching live. Or if you're not watching live, use the comment section below about some of your favorite memories, favorite performances, favorite movies of the legendary and great good Canadian kid, Donald Sutherland, again, passing away at the age of 88, man. And thank you for all the ways you've contributed to us as a movie community, as film fans, and the great memories you've given us. And he will absolutely be missed. All right, guys, with that down, let's move on to some main topics here today, shall we? And we're going to get started off with this. Inside Out 2 is, of course, smashing all kinds of box office records right now, up and down the aisle. It's like crushed it with its opening weekend. I think it's the third biggest opening weekend of any animated film in history. It went on then to set records for Monday and Tuesdays and Wednesdays. And it's about to pass for like $400 million probably by the end of the day in just like 6 days, which is absolutely insane with this movie doing, and good for it. Well, now, apparently the head of Pixar, Peter Docter, is saying that not only is there a spinoff to Inside Out coming, that it's already done. This comes to us from Deadline, who writes the following. Peter Docter, the chief creative officer at Pixar Animation Studios, is teasing the Inside Out spinoff series coming to Disney Plus in 2025. In a recent interview, the filmmaker gave details of what the spinoff will be about and the show's setting. "We have finished," he said. "It's coming out next spring. I'm not sure that there's been a specific release date, Doctor told Entertainment Weekly. In the first film, remember we go to Dream Productions to see how Riley's dreams are made? It semi-explains why they're so weird. So, they have quietly and secretively, those sneaky bunches, been under the radar producing and making an entire spin-off series based on the Dream production studios from the first Inside Out. Now, in case you don't remember, at some point, Joy and Sadness, and I think Bing Bong is with them, they end up going into Riley's dreams in an attempt to try to wake her up. And they go onto what looks like a Hollywood production studio set, and where they see the actors and directors making her dreams. And it looks like that's what this is going to be about, the dream making production studio inside Riley's mind. And listen, right now, I guess it shows for them a lot of foresight that somehow deep down they knew that Inside Out 2 was going to be a smash success and a smash hit. The fact that they didn't even wait for this movie to come out to go to conceive of, pre-produce, write, and then fully produce a series based on it is pretty fantastic. But now, like, here's something I don't understand though. If it's already done, like Doctor says in the quote, we finished. Why are they holding out until 2025 to put it out? Like, you would kind of think that maybe they would want to strike while the iron's hot. I'm not saying put it out on Disney Plus right now as Inside Out 2 is in theaters, but maybe, after 90 or 100 days that they said they're going to wait before they put it on home video, maybe once it's coming out on home video, you kind of bolster that release by also introducing this. I don't know. Listen, I'm sure they've got their reasons. I just think it's kind of weird that they've got it already done and finished, and at minimum, they're going to be waiting 7 months to put this thing out. So obviously there must be a strategy. There's something they have in mind, but I'm excited about it. Question is for you guys. What do you think about this? The fact that, number one, we're getting a spin-off series of Inside Out. We'll probably get some cameo appearances from some of the core emotions in Riley's mind, but that they've already made it, but they're going to hold on to it and sit on it until 2025. Whatever you guys think, jump down into the comments section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, let's talk about this. The Acolyte just put out episode 4, and I did an open mic about it the other day. In case there's any confusion, it's absolutely terrible. Now, if you're somebody who liked it, because I got messages from some people that liked episode 4, and if you did, thumbs up. I'm super excited for you. I'm glad you liked it. I'm not going to try to yuck on your yum and talk you out of liking it. I just talked about how I personally thought it was completely dreadful, showed a lack of even the most basic fundamental understandings of storytelling, and I thought it was just horrendous and terrible. That being said, it drives me crazy when something is terrible, and there's a lot of legitimate reasons to call it terrible. It drives me insane then when I see some people making up absolutely asinine reasons for it being terrible. Because when you start throwing out complete asinine reasons, not legitimate reasons for something being terrible, it undermines the legitimate criticism about how terrible of a piece of television that episode was. And I bring before you, as I was doing open mic, a lot of people wrote in with this one thing, and I bring before you the people exhibit Ki-Adi-Mundi. The complaints I saw coming out about this character, Ki-Adi-Mundi, who makes an appearance in The Acolyte, episode 4, show a basic fundamental misunderstanding of how Star Wars works, number one, and is, again, like some things, like episode 3 was also terrible, but then people made up stuff that was never actually in episode 3 as complaints about episode 3. It's like, guys, there are plenty of reasons to dislike that episode. Stick to the legitimate ones. But this Ki-Adi-Mundi thing, there's 2 big complaints that are coming out about Ki-Adi-Mundi in this, in episode 4. And both are nonsense. Absolute, factual nonsense. And remember, I'm saying this is a guy who completely hated that episode. Completely hated it. The 2 complaints are, Number one, John, they broke canon. No, they didn't. But John, they broke canon in two different ways. Number one, he shouldn't be alive during the time of the Acolyte, because according to canon, and they're wrong, according to canon, he hasn't been born yet. All right, we're going to address that. And number two, they broke canon like Batman's back over Bane's knee, because in Star Wars: The Phantom Menace, Ki-Adi-Mundi says the Sith have been extinct for millennia, and yet in this episode he knows about the Sith. That breaks canon. Okay, we're going to address both of those. Let's start with the charge that it broke canon by having him be alive in the events of the Acolyte when he should not have been born yet. Okay? Let's talk about that. To address this point, we got to go all the way back and talk about a certain guy at Lucasfilm by the name of Leland Chee. His official title at one point is the Lucasfilm Continuity Database Administrator, or as they sometimes called him, the head of canon. Now, in an article in 2008 in Wired, not some Gus's gas station movie reviews .fart place, but in this interview in Wired, talking about addressing the issues of canon, Leland Chee said the following: George's view of the universe is his view. He is not, as the primary filmmaker, he is not beholden to what has gone before. The careful tending of the Star Wars continuity has yielded great wealth, but the key to a productive farm is to leave some fields flexible. Again, this comes from an interview with him back in 2008. It is important to understand something here that Leland's talking about. It's like, before the Star Wars prequels came out, other expanded universe Star Wars content came out. And Leland Chee talks about in that interview that George would break that stuff all the time. But that was his purview because he was the filmmaker. You also have to understand this, that during the time that Star Wars was still owned by George Lucas, canon was a very nebulous thing. At Star Wars, there were actually different degrees of canon. And that always drove me crazy because something's either canon or it's not. It's like saying a girl is sort of pregnant. No, a girl is either pregnant or she is not pregnant. There's no sort of pregnant. But at Star Wars, and this is important to understand as we're talking about Ki-Adi-Mundi being alive in the events of the Acolyte, okay? At Star Wars, there are different levels of canon, different levels of importance of canon, and some stuff that was really canon and some stuff that wasn't. First of all, there was G-level canon. That's what they called it. That is the highest true level of canon. That was G canon because it was George canon. For example, the movies, episodes 1 through 6, the released films overrode anything in the movies, overrode anything in any other level of canon. So you could have a story in a comic book at that time, but Leland Chee says George wasn't beholden to that. He could come into a movie and make something that completely overrode something that was in something else, because only his movies were G level and those take priority over anything else. Next, there was what they called T canon. That was television canon. The canonicity level comprising of the Clone Wars, which George Lucas also co-created. That basically meant if they did something in Clone Wars, George was still totally free to contradict that in the movies as the primary filmmaker. After T canon, the next level down was something called C canon. And that was continuity canon. Most of the materials from the expanded universe, including books, comics, and video games, and by the way, CD-ROMs. You're going to see how this all ties into Ki-Adi-Mundi here in a second. So you got big canon, the real canon, G canon. Right below that is T canon. Then you start dropping. Then there's C canon. And then there's S level canon next, secondary canon, elements introduced in continuity that wasn't contradicted by other material. Then down below that was D level canon. They called detours canon. And then way at the bottom was N canon or non-canon. Stuff like what if stories, such as the first 20 issues of the Star Wars Tales of the Comic anthology. So you had all these different levels of canon, right? C-level canon was not a priority. Material from expanded universe stuff, books, comics, video games, these were things that were free to be contradicted that would then become S-level canon, because that secondary canon, elements that were introduced but then later contradicted by either T-level canon on television or G-level canon, the George canon. Why is that important? Here's why it's important. Because Ki-Adi-Mundi's age, that everybody's running around and clutching their pearls about, screaming that Ki-Adi-Mundi wasn't alive at that time, was never canon. It was never canon. Ki-Adi-Mundi's year of birth was never once mentioned in anything T canon, television canon, nor was it ever mentioned in anything G-level canon, the movie level canon. You know where it came from? This is what everybody's clutching their pearls about. The birth year of Ki-Adi-Mundi and his birth age literally came from a 1999 CD-ROM called Star Wars Episode 1 Insider's Guide. CD-ROM is the only place that Ki-Adi-Mundi's year of birth or age is ever mentioned. As such, it was never true canon. It was actually S-level canon, or at best, it was only ever C-level canon, which George Lucas himself established was totally ignorable. George Lucas himself said that level of canon is totally ignorable, and anything in television and the movies can override that. The whole argument that people are crying about Ki-Adi-Mundi's age was never a canon thing. You got to get that through your heads. It was never true canon. It is a piece of information that came from this place, a CD-ROM.
Looks like a sick CD-ROM, though.
It was an awesome... I had this thing. I had this CD-ROM. It was a very good CD-ROM. The whole LucasArts was getting into the interactive stuff.
Yeah.
Using the digital technologies. Okay. So that puts that to bed. That's charge number one. They broke canon by him being alive in that era. We've just firmly established they did not break canon because it was never true. Even by the old Lucasfilm standards, Ki-Adi-Mundi's birth year was never canon. Never was. All right. So let's go on to charge number two. John, they broke canon by Ki-Adi-Mundi in The Phantom Menace saying the Sith have been extinct for a millennia, and yet in The Acolyte, he's talking about Sith. The Sith have been extinct for millennia, says Ki-Adi-Mundi in The Phantom Menace. But here's the thing. They never broke canon. Why? Because in The Acolyte, Sith is never mentioned or even ever considered a possibility. In that scene, in The Acolyte that Ki-Adi-Mundi is in, that you can see in this picture, in that discussion, those Jedi standing around concluded that whoever is training May must either A, be from a splinter order of the Jedi, or B, she's being trained by a Jedi. If you go back and watch the scene, in those Jedi's minds, Sith is not a possibility because they believe there is no such thing as a Sith at this time. So they conclude in that meeting that either a splinter order might be training her or a Jedi might be training her. That is what they conclude. So this crying about they broke canon because in Phantom Menace he says the Sith have been, why is Ki-Adi-Mundi lying? He's not. In The Acolyte, Ki-Adi-Mundi and all those other Jedi still believe that the Sith are extinct. Their conclusion, that must be another Jedi training her. That is what they conclude. Therefore, the crying about they broke canon because of his whole thing about the Sith being gone for millennia is completely wrong. It's just dead wrong. Charge number one, that they broke canon by his age being there. His age was never a part of actual canon. Now listen, guys, go back and watch my open mic from yesterday. If you want to look for some legitimate reasons to crap on episode 4 of The Acolyte, which I absolutely detested, I'll give you a full laundry list of true legitimate things to go cry about. Don't start complaining about things that aren't real. Don't start complaining about his age. Never canon in the first place. The Sith are extinct. The Sith are extinct. He never said otherwise. So, yes, this whole get-a-maroo about people crying about Ki-Adi-Mundi. My God, people, find some legitimate things to complain about because there are a lot. And when you complain about this irrelevant nonsense like this that isn't even true, you undermine the legitimate criticisms about that terrible piece of television that was The Acolyte Episode 4. Anyway, I'm sure some of you guys will have some thoughts about that later in the show if you want to fire in some thoughts. But what do you guys think? I mean, listen, maybe you're one of the people that actually enjoyed episode 4 of The Acolyte. And if you do, I'm jealous and I'm glad that you enjoyed it. And I'm not trying to undermine your enjoyment. I'm just letting you know I personally thought it was terrible. And I talk about why I thought it was terrible. But this whole thing about Ki-Adi-Mundi is such a great example of people who want to hate something. And instead of spending the time to actually find the legitimate things to complain about, they make shit up to complain about that isn't even real. So anyway, that's my thoughts on that whole situation. Whatever you guys think, jump down into the comment section below and let us know your thoughts.
Sounds like somebody's got a case of the Coyote Mondays.
Mondays. All right. With that down, guys, let's go on and talk about this, shall we? Sony kind of shocked the world the other day when they came out and bought the Alamo Drafthouse movie theater chain. Something that hasn't really happened in a millennia. Something that hasn't happened in a very, very long time. Not since the Paramount decrees went into effect so many decades before I was born, so many decades ago. And only, I think in 2020, the Paramount decrees became undone, opening the door for studios to own movie theater chains if they want to. At the time, I thought, well, you're not going to see studios buy movie theater chains because why would they? It's a razor margin thin profit margin, if any profit margin. It's very tough to make money running a movie theater chain, and it's not their expertise. So a couple of years passed, and sure enough, nobody did. But then last week, it got announced that Sony bought the Alamo Drafthouse. Now, it's not that huge of a deal because unlike, say, Regal, AMC Theaters, and a couple of others that literally have thousands of screens and thousands of locations and whatever, Alamo Drafthouse, as popular as it is as a movie theater chain, only had 36 locations. I think it was a few more than that, but then like a couple weeks ago, they announced they closed a bunch of their locations.
There's some franchise locations, right?
Yeah, some of the franchise locations got shut down around the Dallas area and things like that. I think one in Minnesota, if I'm not mistaken. Anyway, 36 locations, all right? That's fine. Somebody wrote into the show and said, do you think they could buy like bigger things now? I said, no, I don't think any studio is going to want to. But the folks over at IndieWire have put forward the notion that Sony may have bought Alamo Drafthouse as kind of a test, maybe even being a precursor to Sony buying one of the larger movie theater chains. Like over at IndieWire, they said this, they might be testing before buying a major chain. Whatever Alamo might have cost, it also demands ongoing investment and operating expenses. Downsides at a time of studio how do I pronounce this? Economizing. I've never seen it written that way. And there's a good reason for why few studios buy theaters. Prior experiences were not positive. The exhibition business is not in a good place, and the infrastructure is tricky to repurpose. So basically, IndieWire is saying, look, there's a reason why a lot of studios have never bought theaters. It's a completely different business. They don't know this business. It's an expensive thing to get into. It's tough to make profits, all that kind of stuff. But they speculate, could it be that once again, I knew that's what you were thinking, right? Could it be that once again, nobody else understood that reference at all. But could it be that Sony maybe bought Alamo Drafthouse just as a way of dipping their toe in the waters? Say, hey, can we make this work? Can we run this thing without crossing FTC guidelines, without getting into any kind of trouble with breaking any kind of rules? And can we actually turn a profit? And if so, maybe this little test with 36 locations can turn into something a little bit bigger. By the way, SWAT in the live chat got it. It's a Three Amigos reference. Anyway, so could it be? Now, look, I still don't see why any movie studio in their right mind would want to come out and buy AMC theaters or buy Regal. I mean, I think for them, that becomes an instant Tom Hanks level money pit. But they do make a good point that if they're testing the waters, that maybe in a month or two, we wake up and find out Sony Pictures has now bought Regal Cinemas. What's the name of the Cineworld? Yeah, Cineworld is the current owner of Regal.
Right, yeah.
Maybe Sony buys Regal off of Cineworld. What we could wake up in a month or two and find out that, I don't know, Warner Brothers has bought AMC theaters. That, I don't know, Netflix has bought Cinemark. All I'm saying is that I still believe that is very unlikely, but IndieWire raises a good point that it does maybe open up the possibility that we could see something like that happen. Isaiah Jones in the live chat is saying, not that soon. Oh, I completely agree with Isaiah Jones in the live chat. It wouldn't be that soon, but it does open the door that something like that could happen. And that would be very interesting to see how that would play out. Anyway, guys, the question is for you. What do you think about this? The theory that maybe Sony buying Alamo Drafthouse was but a small test to see how well it could work. And maybe it identifies the idea that somewhere down the road, be it short-term, long-term, whatever, that a place like Sony or a Netflix or a Disney or an Amazon or whatever could step in and buy one of the major theater chains. Would that be good? Would that be bad? That would be something we have to talk about at the time. Whatever you guys think, jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, we still got to talk about a couple things here, including Deadpool 3. We'd always talked about how Marvel said Deadpool and Ryan Reynolds could do whatever they want in it, but apparently there was one solid thing, one rule they said they could not do. So Deadpool obviously mocked them for it. Also, the new full trailer for The Penguin has dropped, and it looks like it has best comic show ever potential to it. Anyway, we're going to talk about that stuff and a few things more. But before we do, we're going to take a quick second and thank one of the sponsors of today's episode of the John Campea Show podcast, our friends at Gametime. Guys, we want to take a second to thank a sponsor of today's video, Gametime. My wife Ann and I love going to events, whether they're comedy shows, concerts, an LA Lakers game. I mean, just the other night we went to go see Ronnie Chang and it was awesome. We love having these new experiences and new memories. And our sponsor Gametime makes getting tickets for concerts and events faster and easier, even if you don't buy tickets right away. Because prices on the Gametime app actually go down the closer you get to the show start time. With killer last minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and their lowest price guarantee, Gametime takes the guesswork out of buying event tickets. I couldn't believe how easy and most importantly, intuitively, the entire app works. Finding the event I was looking for couldn't have been easier. The way it lays out the map of the venue, letting you know exactly where the seats are that you're looking for, and how easy the process was to choose and buy those tickets. So don't worry if you think you're too late to get tickets to that big event you and your friend want to go to. They have last minute deals. Save up to 60% off buying last minute for sports, concerts, comedy, theater, whatever. So guys, take the guesswork out of buying concert tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use the code CAMPEA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code CAMPEA, C-A-M-P-E-A, for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. And thank you to our friends at Gametime for sponsoring today's episode of the John Campea Show podcast. All right, guys, with that down, let's move into this, shall we? You know, Deadpool and Wolverine, we're now under 40 days. What are we, like 36 days, 35 days, something along that line, from when Deadpool and Wolverine finally arrives in theaters. The box office projections are like almost unrealistically high. I wonder if they'll actually get that big, but it's going to be huge regardless. It's going to be absolutely huge. Now, a big deal was made when they first announced that they were going to be doing Deadpool 3. A lot of naysayers came out and said, they're going to Disneyfy it. They're not going to actually let them be R-rated. They're not going to actually let them go hard. They're going to Disneyfy it, make it kid-friendly. It's going to be PG-13. Despite the fact that they were adamant that, no, it's going to be rated R. And then the naysayer said, well, okay, maybe it'll be rated R, but it'll be totally snip, neutered. Not like really R. Like maybe they'll drop some F-bombs, but it's not going to be really R. And then they came back and said, no, it's going to be really rated R. Well, apparently, even after Ryan Reynolds and the writers of the movie said, you know what, we got no notes. Like they let us do whatever it is we wanted to do. But apparently that wasn't necessarily true. Because in a recent interview, the director of Deadpool and Wolverine, Sean Levy, he actually revealed that there was one rule that they gave them for Deadpool 3, a line, if you will, that they were not supposed to cross. This comes to us from over at MovieWeb. There are some more risque jokes references vetoed by Feige, but the overt drug use. Here it is. Sean Levy said this: I'm so wary of what I can say, but certainly there were early conversations about overt drug use. So apparently there was one line that Kevin Feige gave them that said you can't cross. Understanding that even though it's rated R, there are still going to be kids that watch this movie. What we don't want to have in it is overt drug use, okay? We can show them gore. We can show them naughty bits. We can have lots of heads being cut off and lots of swearing, but we don't want to be accused of trying to encourage kids of doing drugs. So he gave that one rule: no overt drug use, which is really funny because if you guys remember the first trailer for Deadpool and Wolverine, what the creators of Deadpool decided to do is like, okay, we can't do drug use. Great. We're going to make fun of you for that. And in this scene in the trailer where Wade is talking to Blind Al and Blind Al goes, want to do some cocaine? And Wade says to her, come on, you know that's the one thing Feige said we couldn't do. So you're going to tell us we can't do it? Okay, we're going to make a joke out of it then. That is the one thing that Feige, he says in the trailer, it's the one thing Feige said we couldn't do. And then what do they say? Want to call it something else? And what are some of the lines they call it?
Oh, there was a few. There was like Forrest Bump. There was
Bump.
White Girl Interrupted. There was Booger Sugar. There was a few of them.
Oh, do you want to build a
Do you want to
snowman?
build a snowman?
They said, okay, we can't show overt drug use. Great. We're going to make fun of it then. Like incessantly. Do you want to build a snowman? I still think was my Forrest Bump is pretty good too. White Girl Interrupted. I loved it. I just thought it was funny in the trailer, but now knowing that the genesis of that joke came from Kevin Feige actually telling them the one thing you can't do is show drug use. Now I want to go back and watch that trailer again, because now I think it's going to make that scene all the funnier.
Well, in reality, like there's only a few characters in the Deadpool universe where you could talk about drugs and stuff. There's only characters like he wouldn't be talking about it with like Wolverine or somebody, right?
Why not?
Well,
Deadpool
it just seemed so out of I don't know.
Deadpool talks about getting an erection watching Wolverine doing stuff.
I'm saying that scene,
like using it with Wolverine.
That scene where he's actually doing it with the what's that grandma name? What's her name?
Blind Al.
Yeah, that works perfect. But he's not going to be doing that with like Vanessa or what's her name?
Vanessa, of course they would. Of course they did. I think they did drugs together in the first ones.
Oh,
I thought they did drugs together.
Ray, I think you better just stop where you're at, because you just lost this debate.
I know. I'm just saying the drug talk is funny, but it's not needed. Like we don't.
No, you're right. We don't need to see Wade actually splitting out lines and snorting cocaine.
Yeah,
I totally agree. There's no need for it. I just think it's funny that, they probably wouldn't have had it anyway. But that Kevin Feige mentioning them, the one thing I don't want you to do is do this. So they immediately thought, okay, but we're going to make that a thing now. And they put it into the trailer.
That's what makes that scene so hilarious. Knowing that it makes it a lot more funny. And we saw it was part of the actual movie. It just wasn't for the trailer, right? At CinemaCon when they showed us that whole birthday scene.
Oh yeah. They showed us a full segment of the movie and that was part of it. So, I mean, it's good. You know what? I know this is stupid and it's kind of off track. My whole life, I'm not just when talking about movies, my whole life, whenever somebody mentions cocaine, and I want to see if anybody in the live chat gets this reference. Tell me if you get it. Whenever, ever somebody mentions cocaine in a real life conversation, in a television show, whatever, all I hear in my head is cocaine. That's all I hear. I want to see if anybody in the live chat gets that reference and what that comes from. But when somebody in real life, whether it's in a trailer or a movie in real life, and somebody says cocaine, in my brain, I hear cocaine. And it's not Pacino or Scarface. That's it. Spicy Memes got it. Do you got Spicy Memes there?
It's going so fast, I missed it.
Okay, Spicy Memes gets it. Bedazzled. Good. Big points for you, Spicy Memes. Bedazzled when Brendan Fraser is like going through all his wishes with the devil, and he wants to be, he wakes up as a Mexican drug lord of some kind. And he's like, he doesn't know how, but he's speaking Spanish. And the way he says cocaine, I don't know why. Whenever I hear anybody in real life say cocaine, I just hear Brendan Fraser's voice going cocaine in my brain, and I don't know why. Anyway, that had nothing to do with anything. Guys, question is for you. What do you think about this? Apparently there was indeed one rule that Marvel set for Deadpool, and they kind of tried to find a way to break it anyway. I don't know. Whatever you guys think about it, jump down into the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. Okay, guys. With that down, let's move on to this, shall we? Not as much as Shogun, but one of the things I have been most excitedly waiting for and anticipating ever since Matt Reeves' Batman movie
You're welcome.
is the Colin Farrell Penguin series. I mean, when I saw the Batman and I saw the world that they were creating, the nature of Gotham and all that kind of stuff, I got really excited about the idea of furthering that lore and going deeper into the underbelly of Gotham, particularly through the vantage point of Colin Farrell's Penguin, who, I mean, listen, if he's as good in the series, and we don't know if he will be or not, I'm just saying, if he's as good in this series as he was in the movie, we're talking Emmy nominations or other award season nominations, because he was fantastic in that movie. They dropped a first couple of looks at it, but a full 2+ minute trailer for Penguin dropped. And I'm going to tell you this. Trailers can be a fickle thing. They can make a good thing look bad. Sometimes they make a bad thing look good. A trailer is a trailer. It's a different thing from the show or the movie. But I watched this trailer and forget that it's based on comic book material for a second. Forget that it's based on comic book material. I watched this trailer and I thought, as a preview, this looks like it could be one of the best shows in the world. I mean, I completely got, and other people have made this comparison before to other things, and I never thought it applied, but here it does. I got Sopranos vibes.
A little bit.
Like harder core.
A little bit.
Harder core. Soprano vibes and even Sopranos. And I'm watching this thing, and I'm thinking, this looks like, because remember, it's just a trailer we're talking about, only a trailer, but it looks like one of the best damn crime stories I've seen in ages.
What if when it like the opening scene, it's like, woke up this morning. Wow, wow.
Oh my God, that would take it over the edge. That would probably make it completely. But I'm just like, I watched that trailer and then I watched it again and I watched it again. And like, yeah, in my head, I was like, okay, just forgetting that this is based on the Penguin from the freaking Batman comic books. Take that out of it. This looks like one of the best TV shows that's coming out, period.
Put it good.
Forget comic book connections. Add in the comic book realm. This could be the best comic book based show ever made. Again, I want to throw in the asterisk, the grain of salt, the precaution that we are talking about potential. We're talking about a trailer, and I'm exclusively limiting my comments to the trailer. We've seen lots of great trailers to terrible shows. We've seen lots of bad trailers to great shows. I'm just saying, the way they make this thing look in the spot that they dropped today, it looks like it's going to fulfill every ounce of that potential that it has. Now we just have to sit back and wait to see if it actually does. John, you had a chance to look at the trailer this morning. What did you think about it?
It looks great. I mean, they definitely used some shots in the early part of the trailer from the Batman, the flood scenes. There were scenes of like the coffee maker sitting in the water.
I'm glad you brought that up because I totally forgot to mention. It looks like, I didn't know if this was going to be like a year later or whatever, but it looks like the show picks up right at the end events of the Batman.
Because he's trying to move fast to consolidate power. So I'm excited. I mean, this cast looks great. It's a lot of players that you don't see too often, but I'm pretty sure, I can't remember the actor's name. He played the husband in Fabulous Mrs. Maisel.
Right.
With a split. Like he's in it. He plays Falcone's son, I think.
Was that him?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And there's some other really great actors in this. So I'm looking forward to it. I love this. I love this world that's set up, but I also love the world of like the mafia. You know what I mean? So it's a good merging of those two things. It's a different take on the Penguin. And I just want to say, I'm pretty sure there is a little bit of overlap in filming between the Penguin and Sugar. And that just speaks volumes to me about his power, his strength as an actor.
Like, wait, do you know, like, was he having to like on a Monday be on set of Sugar filming and then he had to drive across town to be in Penguin?
I don't know for a fact of what his overlap was because they could have shot most of his stuff at different times in blocks. But the Penguin finished shooting in, I believe, March or February of 2024. And Sugar started in early 2024. So there was definitely production overlap there. But either way, that means like within like a week's time, a month's time, he's got to like get out of the Penguin mindset and be Sugar.
And into Sugar, which by the way, I really enjoyed Sugar. I figured out the twist before it happened, but I still loved the twist. And by the way, if you watch this show for any period of time, you know I often gush about this. I freaking love Clancy Brown.
He was one of the other guys. He was in prison.
I love Clancy Brown so much. Like ever since he was, what is it? Better to burn out than to fade away.
But it's like he's got this
Kurgan
look sometimes where you think like he's about to bash this guy's head in.
Oh, he's about to. That guy could be 105 years old. It doesn't matter. He still looks like he could crush bricks.
Yeah.
But like he just keeps popping up. Like he's in two of my all-time favorite things. First of all, he's in two of my top 10 all-time favorite movies, right? Shawshank Redemption, which he is brilliant in, and Highlander, which a lot of people are always surprised that that's in my top 10, but it is. I love Highlander. But he just keeps popping up and stuff. Like even in Gen V, when he pops up in Gen V, he's so cool. It says, "What is it you want, Oz? What are you after, Oz?" I just, God, I love seeing him pop up in anything. So that got me excited too. Yeah. And so, I mean, look, I don't know if Robert Pattinson's going to cameo in it. My guess is probably not. But like, there's that great line at the beginning as they're driving around the flooded Gotham. He said, "Look what that madman did." But I don't know if he's talking about Riddler, Paul Dano's Riddler, or if he's talking about Batman.
Right.
Like, are they holding Batman responsible for it? Look what that madman did. So, I mean, I don't know. We'll have to see. But my God, this looks so good. And I'm so excited to see it. Anyway, guys, question is for you. You have a chance to see this new Penguin trailer. I thought it looks like it's got at least the potential, only potential, but potential to maybe be the best comic book material ever put onto a television series. I don't know. Whatever you guys thought about it, jump down into the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, we're now going to move over to the most important part of our show, which is taking your live comments and questions. But before we do, we're going to take another quick second here and thank another sponsor of today's episode, our friends at Liquid IV. Guys, we want to thank the sponsor of today's video, Liquid IV. You know, it seems like summer's just designed to make us thirsty, whether it's camping, hiking, playing sports, and staying hydrated is the key to making the most of every moment. Because summer requires extraordinary hydration that's built for everyday dehydrating moments. Liquid IV hydrates me with benefits like electrolytes, essential vitamins, and clinically tested nutrients. With 3 times the electrolytes of the leading sports drink, plus 8 vitamins and nutrients in a single stick, it's clearly why Liquid IV is the #1 powdered hydration brand in America. It has 3 times the electrolytes of the leading sports drink. Just tear, pour, and live more. Just 1 stick plus 16 ounces of water hydrates better than water alone. With 8 vitamins and nutrients, non-GMO and free from gluten, dairy, and soy. There's no artificial colors or sweeteners, and it's got 4 delicious sugar-free flavors: white peach, green grape, raspberry melon, and lemon lime. So turn your ordinary water into extraordinary hydration with Liquid IV. Get 20% off your first order of Liquid IV when you go to liquidiv.com and use the code Campea at checkout. That's 20% off your first order when you shop Better Hydration today using promo code Campea at liquidiv.com. And thank you to our friends at Liquid IV for sponsoring today's episode of the John Campea Show podcast. All right, guys, with that down, let's get over to your questions here, shall we? Jonathan, what we got up first?
First off, we got Disney Gifts by Bryce. John, this is important. Variety is saying that one of my all-time favorite movies, Spaceballs, is getting a sequel on Amazon Prime and starring Josh Gad. Do you think this is any good? Sequels, after a long period of time, tend to worry me, but I'm excited. He's got a point, though. It could be.
Yeah, we talked about this yesterday. We talked about it, and I am super excited. Of course, the key main thing here is that Mel is connected to it. He's a producer on the film, Mel Brooks. And look, it has all the potential in the world to be terrible. Of course it does, 100%. But I like the director they got on board. I like the writer they got on board. And Mel Brooks is connected, kind of overseeing it. And Josh Gad, I really like Josh Gad as a performer. Mahershala Ali loves working with him. I mean, he's quite a good performer. So it has all the potential to be terrible. The potential is there to be great. I'm just excited they're at least going to take a shot at it. And if it ends up being bad, it ends up being bad. But I'm thrilled that they're taking a shot at it. All right, what's next?
Murray Reich says, I have an idea. Maybe instead of having 30 minutes of trailers at AMC and Regal, have them play a new weekly episode of any Disney Plus show, like The Acolyte. And there's always short 28-minute episodes. You're welcome, movie theaters.
Yeah, no, movie theaters have no reason to do that. Why would a movie theater want to spend their time playing a television show episode, the exact opposite of their business? They want people not watching television shows. They want people going to the movies. So yeah, look, I wouldn't take that either. Look, you tell me a movie starts at 7, start the damn movie at 7 or very, very close to it. Don't tell me a movie starts at 7, then play 30 minutes of commercials. So no, that wouldn't work either. All right, what's next?
All right. I believe Marco. Hi, John. Have you seen the film exclusive pics from Deadpool and Wolverine? A certain character you mentioned as a joke in your 25 most likely cameos vid was trending and shown. Also missed Robert at LA Comic-Con. Still had fun learning about Friedkin.
I have no idea what photos you're talking about.
Yeah.
So no, I don't know which photos that they're saying are going around. I know some fake ones were going around, but I don't know if those are the ones you're talking about or not. And yeah, Rob is continuing to be busy over there working on an audio drama, which is a pretty cool project I like. So he's working on his audio drama, still hammering away at that. He will be for a while still. All right, what's next?
Brokalite writes, I don't care what they tell you in school. Luke blew up the Trade Federation ship. Which Trade Federation ship?
Luke blew up the Trade Federation? What did
he wouldn't have been, that's before his time.
I mean, his dad was a child. It was his dad that, let's try a spin move. That's always cool. Whee!
Oh my God, I remember that line.
The prequels are so, I mean, this revisionist history, some people try to pull, the prequels are actually not that bad. The prequels were garbage. I know, let's try spinning. That's a good move. Woo! Uh-oh, we blew up the ship. Oops. Don't.
It's because he's so strong in the Force. He just blunders
even
through.
Get me started. Anyway, what's next?
All right. JM, none other. Here's logic for you. The farther we get away from the OG trilogy in Star Wars, the worse it is. Everyone craps on the 3 prequels, and now the Acolyte set before Episode 1. At this point, Kathleen Kennedy is Tom Landry, Hall of Famer, but ultimately had to go. But well, there's bright spots.
The problem is that Tom Landry was a great coach. Kathleen Kennedy was a great producer. She is not a great studio head. You know? And listen, I agreed with George Lucas when he picked her to be his successor and to run it. I look, on paper, it was a good pick, but it didn't work out. Wayne Gretzky is the greatest professional athlete of all time, but he didn't work out as a coach. Right? Didn't work out as a coach. Michael Jordan is arguably the greatest basketball player of all time. Not such a great owner. I mean, you can be great in one thing and yet not be great in something that's connected to it. You can be great in one thing and not great in another. And I think that's the situation with Kathleen Kennedy. She was a great producer, one of the best all time. But that ain't the same thing as running a studio. and she's proven not to be very good at it. All right, what's next?
We got Don't You Blame the Movies, writes, I've just had the unfortunate mispleasure of watching Russell Crowe in The Exorcism. Rough. Slow build up, and when anything did happen, I couldn't care. Thank God for my Cineworld card.
Cineworld is, of course, a UK-based theater chain that actually also owns Regal, and they've had an A-list membership card long before MoviePass was ever around. Anyway, yeah, I've not heard. Russell Crowe is one of my absolute all-time favorite actors. I've not heard good things about this Exorcism movie, so I haven't watched it yet myself. Probably going to take a pass on it, but what you're saying is right in line with some other unfortunate things I've heard that is not so good. Anyway. All right. What's next?
The Dark Nick says, I know we don't like to get into X actor, X roles, but he's going to do it anyway. But with the news of additional, the Batman 2 casting coming this fall, how great would Mads Mikkelsen be in the universe? Him sharing scenes with Pattinson and Wright, all under Reeves' direction.
Pointless unless you have a character for him to play.
Mm-hmm.
Look, Mads Mikkelsen is just a great actor. There's not a movie you can mention that you can't say Mads Mikkelsen would be great in that. Of course he would, because he's a great actor. Mads Mikkelsen will be great in frickin' the Harry Tickleballies. What's the name of those damn things? The little...
Well, now I have no idea.
the little things, they go beaky, beaky, beak, and they're all different colors, and they got like a triangle on their head.
Oh, Teletubbies?
Teletubbies, right? The Tickle Bubbies, whatever. You could say Mads Mikkelsen is in that, and he would be great. I mean, because he's Mads Mikkelsen. He's awesome. So, yeah, of course he would. All right, what's next?
BK Dan says, John, INO, I'm guessing. Spaceballs really should use the line, the search for more money. And do you think Mario has lifted the video game movie curse? There's 1.36 billion reasons to say yes. There's other video game adaptations that have been successful.
Okay, first of all, no, the new Spaceballs should not be called The Search for More Money. I talked about this on Open Mic yesterday. The reason, but John, Yogurt said, I know what Yogurt said. Trust me. Believe me when I tell you, you don't know Spaceballs as well as I do. I have an unhealthy, completely ridiculous, I've had an obsession with that movie my whole life. So, but like, I know what Yogurt said. I know. But you also got to understand that the title of a movie is your first line, is nothing more than a marketing tool. That's it. The title of a movie is nothing more than a marketing tool. Most of today's movie audience has never seen Spaceballs. And so making the title of the movie an inside joke callback to the first movie makes no sense. Mel Brooks himself a couple of years ago said that if we ever do another one, I think we should call it Spaceballs 3, The Search for Part 2. That is a much better title.
I love that line.
Yeah.
That's great.
That would be a much better title because you don't have to have seen the first Spaceballs to appreciate that as a title, right? So that's why, as great as that line is in the movie, the original one, as great as that, The Search for More Money, that's a great line, but it wouldn't make any sense to use it as the title for the new movie. All right, what's next?
Bry Guy says, Spaceballs, my Schwaryorts and the goodness of dumb. My Schwaryorts and the goodness of dumb is my one and only working title suggestion, unless you like blue Spaceballs.
Again, if you saw the original movie and would get any of that, yes. Unfortunately for everybody else, it would just be a very confusing title that would not interest anybody, unfortunately. I am your... Oh, God, there's so many lines I could go into. All right, what's next?
I like Ron H right here. I always wanted the Spaceballs the flamethrower.
Spaceballs the flamethrower.
Jay Newby. John, imagine this, a witch dance battle between the witches and the Acolyte versus the Enchantress from Suicide Squad. Who wins the bad witch dance trophy?
Oh, my God.
Only one witch can walk out alive.
Listen, I'm in a bit of a minority as somebody who I liked, not the James Gunn. I love the James Gunn Suicide Squad, but the one with Will Smith. I like that movie. It's a total mess. Totally. It's a total mess of a movie, but by the end credits, I'd had a good time. I'd had fun with it, right? But even the one thing that I really detested about that movie was the Enchantress. Like, just, oh, it's like, just, would you shut up with your movements? Shut your movements up. I hated that character so much. I really did. All right, what's next?
All right, D. Bovenseep says, John, I'm so disappointed you didn't say your favorite soundtrack was Weird Al's UHF. I love the show and enjoy Ray and Jonathan so much. Thank you.
Listen, first of all, UHF. I love that movie. You get to drink from the fire hose. I love UHF. It's not, but when it comes to the music and the songs, it's not actually Weird Al's best work. The movie's great. I love it. But, and the soundtrack's good. It's fun, but yeah, it doesn't measure up there with some of those other ones like Mortal Kombat or Top Gun or stuff like that. All right, what's next?
Bry Guy says, reimagine Freddy Got Fingered as a Broadway musical with songs by Robert Lopez of Avenue Q and the Book of Mormon and Bo Burnham of eighth grade.
You can do whatever you want to do. There's no redeeming Freddy Got Fingered.
Yeah, I don't, you're not going to have a big audience on that one.
No. You know what the funny thing is? Tom Green, who of course did Freddy Got Fingered. He's a good Canadian kid. Check the OWA. You like me so far? He was actually a rapper. That's how he started. He was a rapper. But Tom Green, I've always liked him, even though I hated Freddy Got Fingered. Everybody hated Freddy Got Fingered, but I always liked him. So, true story, for those of you who didn't know this, when we moved the AMC operation from the storage closet at the AMC Burbank Theater across the street, I found this big studio space across the street, and I showed it to the execs at AMC, and they said, yeah, you can have it. We'll get it for you. And we moved in. There was another studio in the building. Tom Green's. Mm-hmm. Tom Green was doing internet shows at the time, and he had a thing in there. And I didn't even realize that until he came over one day. Just said, I thought I'd come over and introduce myself. And he took me over and showed me his studio. Really cool guy. I think he dated one of our staff too.
Yeah, at for a while.
Point. But yeah, he was actually a really, really cool guy. But yeah, nothing's going to redeem Freddy Got Fingered, unfortunately. All right, what's next?
Stella McShave says, lack of foreshadowing and internal logic, nothing interesting happening, and a lackluster climax. Lucasfilm sure knows how to make their mid-season episodes compelling and interesting in anticipation for the home stretch episodes.
The problem, and I went on this ad nauseum in the open mic we did last night, but that's the frustrating thing about it, is that take Star Wars out of it, right? Take the Star Wars-ness out of the Acolyte. Take away the fact that it's fantasy or sci-fi. Take all of that away. They have just completely blown even doing the basic building block fundamentals of good narrative storytelling. Like it's amateur hour. It's really terrible. And I'm not going to repeat everything I did. Like I broke down like item by item about all the ways they just completely failed at the very basics of narrative storytelling. And it's just a terrible show. It's not a terrible Star Wars show. It's a terrible show. Now, for those of you wanting to try to stay optimistic, I applaud that. And there is still 4 episodes left. It is conceivable they turn it around. I didn't like the first act of the new Bad Boys movie, and I loved the second 2 acts. Maybe that can happen here. But I'm just telling you, the way they have just failed at the basic fundamentals of narrative storytelling doesn't give me a lot of hope for the final 4 episodes. So we'll see where but hope springs eternal. But I think I'm going to give it one last episode, and then I'm probably going to tap out if it doesn't show significant improvement. All right, what's next?
We got Ray Loves Trench Coats. Without spoilers, I can honestly watch an hour of just Homelander monologuing and messing with people.
I did not watch. I didn't think the new episode. I thought new episodes came out on Thursdays.
So maybe he watched it this morning.
Yeah, did it? Oh yeah, like I didn't think it came out till Thursday evening, but maybe it dropped at midnight or something. Maybe. I didn't know that. I thought it wasn't going to come out till later tonight. So if I knew that, I would have stayed up till midnight. I haven't seen episode 4 yet of The Boys. I love the first 3 episodes they dropped last week. Cannot wait to see the new one, but I haven't seen it yet myself. All right, what's next?
Julia Goodwin says, what was your first California earthquake like, and how much did you scream?
I didn't scream at all. I was actually like I know California gets a lot of earthquakes, so I was kind of waiting for it. Honestly, the first time that I realized that it was an earthquake, I was in my car. I was at a stoplight, and I realized the car shook a little bit. Most of the earthquakes we get here are just, oh, yeah, I kind of noticed that. Now, the first bigger one that I experienced was when we were live doing the show. You guys know this. It's on the channel. Me, Aaron, and Chris were doing an episode of the show, and an earthquake started. It was fairly minor at first. Like, you could feel the room moving. It's like, oh, okay. And Chris was all excited. This is my first California earthquake. And then a bigger hit came, and things started falling down off the shelves. And then Chris went from excited to kind of terrified really fast.
I do remember when that hit. I'm like, because I know the telltale signs. I'm a California native, LA native. So when that hit, I'm like, okay, here we go. But then it just kind of stopped. I mean, the first like bigger one that I remember, honestly, like it was the San Francisco one in '89, and we felt it all the way in LA. But the biggest one that I've ever felt was the '94 Northridge earthquake. That woke us up.
And
at 4
I
in the
obviously
morning.
wasn't here.
And that just kept going and going and going. It was crazy.
Yeah. So I have not experienced a legitimately big one yet. So it hasn't been one that is frightening. I'm sure when a severe one like one of those hits, I'm sure I'll be very nervous. But so far, one hasn't happened that's made me nervous yet. All right, what's next?
Okay, Julia's back and says, did you see the Actors on Actors with Anna Sawai and Tom Hiddleston?
I read about it, but I didn't see it yet.
It's good pairing. They're so adorable, praising each other. I want a rom-com with them, be it a musical or regular movie, but definitely should be musical because they both can sing.
I'll watch.
I always forget she can sing. She came from a musical background.
Yeah, she was a K-pop star.
Yeah. Or a J-pop, I guess, right? She's Japanese.
Oh, that's right, J-pop. It was a J-pop band. Look, I don't feel bad saying this. I'll watch anything with her. I will straight up watch anything with her. I loved her in Monarch. I loved her obviously so much in Shogun. I'll straight up watch, and you could put her in I don't care, a denture ad. I'll watch it. Doesn't matter. All right, what's next?
Okay, well this is Chip Crisper 2 of 2. I'm not seeing the first part of it, so I could read this, I guess.
Sure.
It's been done so many times in the comics, and Marvel isn't above doing it. A whole new universe blended with the old, so everyone fits, and the characters simply act like it's always been that way. It's a way to move forward. Maybe he's talking about blending like the universes.
Well, we were talking the other day, it might have been on open mic. We were talking the other day about how they're going to bring in X-Men and stuff like that. And there's just a lot of things about X-Men that's going to be very, very tricky. Like, X-Men are supposed to have decades of history of, prejudice and the history with Magneto and all that kind of stuff. And it's like, you can't just bring them into the MCU because they've never mentioned mutants. It sounds like what he's implying, and I'm just guessing here, I could be wrong, that now you could just act like it's always been that way. Marvel hasn't done that. And that would be very disingenuous storytelling. And I don't think that would work if they did that. Now, you might be saying something completely different that obviously you didn't hit send on part 1 or whatever, but I don't think they'll just bring them all in and then just pretend like they've been there the whole time. I don't think they'll do that. I mean, they might. I don't know. I'm just guessing, but my guess is they wouldn't do that. All right, what's next?
We got Mark, who says, hi, John and crew. Got some devastating news yesterday. I found out my sister passed away suddenly.
Oh, I'm so sorry to hear that.
That's awful news, man. Still in shock, I would imagine. Really Watching your show has been a great help. Keep doing what you do.
You know what? I can't speak for anybody else. All I know is that for me, in those unfortunate times in my life where I've gotten some devastating news, it has been a great comfort at times to be able to engage in something that's part of my regular routine, even if it's just for a moment. Whether it's walking the dogs, washing the dishes, listening to a podcast I often listen to, whatever, like right in the midst of something really horrible. I just find that gives my emotional state a bit of a break. It gives my brain just a moment of reprieve, like it does in a lot of things in life. And like maybe even watching a movie or talking about movies is helpful to me. So I can completely relate with what you're talking about on that level. And I'm glad the show can be here for you in this time. And again, our deepest sympathies to you and your family, man. That's horrible to hear. All right. What's next?
Harv's K says, Hitman does indeed show Glenn Powell's a star, but can we talk about Adria Arjona for a second? Their chemistry is fantastic, and she more than holds her own. That climatic phone app scene, and she's quite the smoke show. That airline captain scene, phew.
She's great in it. I mean, look, I'm not gonna lie. I didn't watch that and think I saw star power. You know, like a lot of people still didn't really know Cameron Diaz when Something About Mary came out. Some people knew her from The Mask, some people didn't. But like Something About Mary comes out, and it's like everybody who saw her, and even those who didn't know, are like, yeah, there, she's got it. Whatever it is, she's got it. You know what I mean? I think the same is true of Julia Roberts with Pretty Woman. You know, everybody saw her and she said, oh yeah, she's got it. So I thought she was very good in the movie. I didn't personally feel like, oh my God, a star is born. I didn't necessarily, I'm not saying she's not capable of it. I'm just saying that they didn't really pop out to me as much in that as it did with Glenn Powell. But yeah, she was definitely very, very good in it. All right, what's next?
Anonymous says, hey, Campy Crew, I'm curious if anyone has seen a movie in AMC's Big D format. If you have not heard of it, you should Google what the logo is. There's no way they didn't know what they were doing with that logo, especially on the backs of the seats.
Never heard of it.
Yeah, I'm just looking up like images.
Oh,
I mean,
okay, I see it.
let me see if I can find the actual logo.
I mean, as somebody who's
Oh,
worked at
yeah.
AMC and whatever,
Okay.
I'm like, oh, I don't know.
Okay.
what is it supposed to be?
Oh, you know, it's just a big D theater.
Is it just a
I
big
mean,
theater?
what is supposed to be the thing about the theater? Like, what's
Exactly. Does
I
anyone
don't
know?
know, but the colors look sweet.
is it? Just like a large
Looks
screen?
like Xbox.
The digital
It does look like an Xbox theater, doesn't
Let
it?
me see. There's some
large
more
screen
images
format.
here.
Dimensional
I don't know.
font.
Honestly,
So is it
like
supposed to be like an IMAX competitor? Because it looks like like the angle at this of the
could
seats.
be.
Maybe it's supposed to be like
wall to wall and floor to ceiling screen paired with.
Oh
plus
yeah,
streaming.
okay, I see. It's all the way to the wall and all the way to the floor. Okay, whatever.
So it's kind of like an IMAX wannabe.
I guess.
I'll have to see if
Super
let's see
steep.
if one's open around us
Yeah,
anywhere.
let's see if we could get some big D.
That's never not going to be a thing now. All right, what's next?
All right.
It's real big.
Oh, wrong one. Sorry. I got too flustered by the big D talk over here. What's going on? Anonymous says, after watching Inside Out 2, I got curious about the voice behind Enui.
Ennui.
And Ennui, yeah. That led me to rent blue is the warmest color. Sorry, I lost my thought.
Wait a minute.
Wait, that led me to
Who
rent...
does is that one of the girls from Blue is the warmest color?
Maybe.
Ray, can you look that up?
Oh, sorry. I was looking up the big D.
Look,
Sorry.
I was still looking up Big D.
Okay, go ahead.
Who is the voice of Ennui in Inside Out 2?
Oh, okay, I got you.
Yeah.
The emo girl, right?
Yeah. So who does the voice of that?
Let me get that. Inside Out 2
Because
is.
I've never even thought about it. It certainly wasn't a name that I recognized because she does it with a clear accent.
Here.
It's not Sado, is it?
Ennui, right here.
Yeah.
It is. Oh, I can't even pronounce this. It's
It's a Greek name. It's,
Adelaide Exarchopoulos.
yeah, that's not...
Adelaide.
Okay, so that's not one of the two main girls, I don't think, from Blue is the Warmest Color.
Yeah.
Hold on, let me click on her thing, and then she wait.
Anyway, we need to move on.
Okay.
All right, what's next?
Yeah, there's no time for this, Ray.
Yeah, she is.
But is she like top, like one of the main two girls in Blue is the Warmest, or is she just
Well, she's in it. This girl, she's in it. I don't know.
Oh yeah, I think she is.
It is.
Now that I look at her face, yeah. I think
wow?
so.
Okay. All right. I like as the one girl has gone on to do a lot of stuff. The other girl, which I think is this one, I remember
Known
thinking I
for
haven't
her-
seen her a lot.
known for her performance in Blue is the Warmest Color.
Was she the one who was Adele? Adele or whatever her name
Yes.
is?
I
Yeah.
believe so.
La Vie d'Adèle.
Okay.
Or is that-
By the way, Blue may be the warmest color, but Blue is the Warmest Color is absolutely one of the filthiest movies.
oh,
And by the way, it's a wonderful film. Like there's a lot of filthy in it. There's a lot of filthy in it.
perfect for the big D.
But it's a great movie. It's really
Sorry.
wonderful. You haven't checked it out, you should check it out. I didn't know that was the other girl. All right, what's next?
Let's see. We got Ray loves trench coats, Spaceballs, F Cannon. That's the name.
That's a great name. That is a great name for Spaceballs. I'd totally be down for that. All right, what's next?
Okay, members. Will DLC. On a spree of watching 90s movies I haven't seen before and watched, A Time to Kill last night.
That's
Was
great.
Delighted when Donald Sutherland popped up. Yeah, it's so sad to hear his passing today. What a career. Definitely, man.
It's one of those weird things when like somebody who has been a mainstay in the world of movies my entire lifetime passes away. You know, sometimes a star becomes a star when I was like 15 or 16 and then they pass away. But like guys like Donald Sutherland has been a mainstay, constantly working, constantly a big star actor my entire life. And it's that's why it's just so weird when you hear about him passing away. It was so sad to hear. All right. Oh, Batman in the live chat point. Another good one I really liked him in Space Cowboys. I loved him in Space Cowboys.
Space Cowboys was great.
All right, what's next?
Kevin says both House of Dragon episode 1 and Acolyte episode 4 left me speechless at the end of the episode. One was for how good it was. The other was for the WTF did I just watch, and it's shorter than a sitcom episode. Thank you for all you do.
Yeah, I mean, don't even get me going on the 27-minute runtime of episode 4 of The Acolyte. But Anne wasn't able to watch because she was busy. She wasn't able to watch House of the Dragon episode 1 with me. So when we finished yesterday's show, I walked out into the living room and she was just watching the last minutes of House of the Dragon episode 1. I'm like, what'd you think? She's like, this is so good. I'm like, right? It's so good that with The Acolyte being so bad, that we've got The Boys running, which is awesome. House of the Dragon has started strong. We got The Bear coming back.
Oh, man.
So even though The Acolyte has turned out to be a profound disappointment for me, having other great television out at the same time kind of helps. All right, what's next?
CJ Reber says, all I can say after seeing the newest episode of The Boys is, wow, Homelander is such a good antagonist. Also, was cheering for Starlight in regards to Firecracker.
Haven't seen it, so I can't comment.
Is only one episode out for the season, or did they release
No.
two?
They dropped the first 3 episodes initially last week, and then this week they just dropped the new episode 4. So I haven't seen it yet. I'm gonna have to do that after we're done the show. All right, what's next?
Okay, Joe Howland simply says, hey, John and crew, wanted to say thank you for all you do. It helps me get on with my day. Keep up the great work. Love you all. Keep on bringing the filth.
Oh, thanks, man. It's always nice when somebody just wants to chime in to be encouraging. Thanks, man. We appreciate that.
Logan Vaughn says, back in March, we got Dune 2 and Shogun at the same time. Now in June, we have The Boys, Inside Out 2, and House of the Dragon. I love it when we get multiple great movies and shows released in the same time like this. I know 2024 has been drier than normal, but March and June have been wonderful months for movie fans.
And we still got some great stuff to come. Obviously, we're talking about The Bears coming out. Despicable Me is coming out. Deadpool and Wolverine is only about a month away now. Now is a really good window. Right now is a fabulous, fabulous window. All right, what's next?
Kayak says, all right, I'm calling it phrase. It will come out before Blade. Will be the next hit, earn more than Black Adam. Yeah.
Well, it'll come out before Blade. I mean, that thing has become such a mess. 5 years ago, they announced it. Here we are 5 years later. No script, no finished script. Because they had scripts, but they keep trashing them. So they got a new writer on now, and we'll see if they get that finished. They don't have a director right now that we know of. They just lost another director. And meanwhile, Mahershala Ali is 5 years older than he was when they first announced him being Blade. So he's off shooting Jurassic World. So right now, I think Inside Out 5 is going to come out before Blade. It seems it's getting kind of ridiculous. Anyway. All right. Time for a couple more. What's next?
Hey, this is Andrew writes. No spoilers in this question. Anthony Starr's performance in The Boys last night was incredible. I could now see him taking on the role of Joker in James Gunn's DCU. Open question for the crew. What are your thoughts on Homelander in episode 4?
Haven't seen it, so unfortunately we can't comment on it. All right, skip any more questions about The Boys episode 4 because we're just answering with we haven't seen it yet. All right,
well, here's a Star Wars one. Todd, has it ever been explained to you why Yoda and Obi-Wan fade away when they die and every other Jedi Knight, Master Padawan, and every other Force user doesn't? I was just curious. We're always curious.
So what they tried to do in Star Wars, and they never really codified it perfectly, was that Yoda in the Clone Wars, in an animated show, which, by the way, at the time was considered T level canon, not G level canon, but still, found new secrets. And at the end of Star Wars Revenge of the Sith, as Obi-Wan is about to go into exile to keep an eye on Luke, Yoda says to him, "Training I have for you." I do a terrible, terrible Yoda. But he basically, "I got training for you. Even though you are a Jedi Master, a member of the Council of the Jedi, I've got training for you."
What was that?
And, that is kind of all leading. It's supposed to be a relatively new thing in the world without going into the entire storyline that they had in Clone Wars for it. All right, what's next?
Okay. JT Scott says, hey, John Campea crew, our gang, saw Kevin Costner talking to Fallon about his Western Horizon that opens next week. 11-minute ovation at Cannes. It must be decent at least, right? I've missed Yellowstone so much, so I'm excited to see it. Any plans to see it?
Listen,
I plan to see it, but
nobody else is.
They really like standing ovations there at that film.
Well, but they also like walking out of movies there.
Yeah.
Like the French film fan is a very passionate fan. When they don't like it, they let you know. I mean, like literally, like here in North America, you don't get up and walk out of a film festival screening. They will do that at Cannes.
Yeah.
And when they really like something, they'll heap love on you. Here's the problem with right now. I am a big Kevin Costner fan. I have been ever since Dances with Wolves, Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves. I mean, whatever. I've been a big Costner fan. I love Yellowstone. And I like the look of Horizon. But it's tracking to make like $11 or $12 million on its opening weekend. It's a $120 million movie. So I'm planning on seeing it, but apparently nobody else is. So we'll see. Hopefully it's good. And if it is good, hopefully word of mouth will start firing around and it'll motivate a lot of people to go see it. So yeah, we'll see. We'll see. All right. 2 more questions. What's next?
Mighty Tank says Yellowstone returns November 10th. I love the show, but will admit I'm not overly excited with John Dutton unlikely to be a part of it. It will almost be 2 years since season 5, part 1.
Oh, I know. That whole thing was just a mess. Now, listen, the great thing about Yellowstone, while Kevin Costner's character is like a primacy character, absolutely. The great thing about that show is that every character in that show is awesome. If this show was just about Rip, I would watch the show. I mean, I would completely watch the show if Rip was just the main character and that it was a Rip show. I love all of them. They're so good. So whether or not Kevin Costner appears much in this last half of season 5, I am enthralled with coming back to it and watching it. I mean, yeah, it sucks that Costner's leaving it, but the show is so good on every level that even though I would obviously rather the show have Kevin Costner in it, it's going to be an awesome show with or without Costner. It really will be. I say that saying I would rather him being there, but if Rip suddenly wasn't there, the show would still be awesome. If John is suddenly not there, it's still going to be awesome. That's just how good the show is and how well they've structured it. All right, what's next?
Alan Watson says, how big of an impact do you think the Michael Jackson movie will have? Some say it's a surefire billion-dollar flick. What do you think?
I have become convinced that it'll be a billion-dollar flick. I think initially my thought was when they were first talking about it, I thought, look, first of all, this is a very difficult movie to do. It's a movie that's going to divide a lot of people. Like if you don't accuse him of being something in the movie, they're going to say you're doing this to it. If you do accuse him of being something in the movie, there's going to be the other half of the people are going to be really mad and all that kind of stuff. And I thought this could be a big movie, but I don't see it being a billion-dollar movie. In the year since, though, I've had a lot of people make certain arguments to me, and a lot of them make a lot of sense to me. And I'm now at the place where I'm like, yeah, I think it's going to be a billion-dollar film. And look, they showed us a quick, like 3-minute glimpse of the movie when we were at CinemaCon. It looks extremely grand in scope. Like it looks global in scope. It looks like a huge movie. And yeah, I think it's probably going to be a billion-dollar film. All right, guys. And that'll do it for today's installment of the John Campea Show podcast. Thank you so much for being here and making this little show part of your day. Big special thank you to all you guys who sent in the questions. Number one, because you gave us great fun things to talk about. But number two, you supported this channel as you did it, and all of us involved with the show. Thank you guys so very much for doing so. I want to thank the guys in the room with me, Ray Ora.
Everyone be safe.
Jonathan Voico.
See you guys tomorrow.
My name's John Campea. Thanks a lot for being here, guys. And until next time, my friends, bye-bye.